Hello, beautiful sacred souls. I'm Allison Batty-Capps of Blossoming Heart Wellness, and today I want to talk about something that is extremely difficult but deeply important: the renewed attention around the Jeffrey Epstein case and the release of related files, and how the release of related files have reopened painful conversations about abuse, power, and injustice. Many people are feeling anger, grief, confusion, and heartbreak, especially those of us that are survivors. I speak as a survivor myself. Because once again, we are seeing how systems often fail to protect vulnerable people, particularly children. This moment offers an opportunity to look beyond individual blame and instead examine how entire systems, legal, medical, social, and cultural, often lack a trauma-informed understanding of abuse and its lifelong impact. And neuroscience helps us understand why these systems urgently need to change. Sexual abuse isn't just a violation of the law. It's a biological and neurological injury. Trauma literally reshapes how the brain and the nervous system function. Traditional legal systems are built around linear timelines, consistent memory recall, and physical evidence. But trauma disrupts these. Survivors often experience fragmented memory, delayed disclosure, fear-based compliance, difficulty naming what happened. These are not signs of weakness, deception, or confusion. They are normal survival responses. When we expect survivors to fit into rigid legal frameworks that don't reflect how trauma actually works, the system itself becomes re-traumatizing. So what does neuroscience tell us about trauma? Well, neuroscience shows us that trauma affects multiple systems in the body. The amygdala, which is responsible for detecting danger, becomes hyper-alert, constantly scanning for threat. The hippocampus, which organizes memory, can become disrupted, leading to fragmented recall. The automatic nervous system can stay stuck in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, even long after the threat has ended. This means that survivors may struggle to tell their stories in ways that courts can't expect. Their bodies are still protecting them. Even being exposed to sexualized environments, witnessing abuse, or sensing danger without having language for it can deeply affect a developing nervous system. Understanding this changes how we interpret survivor behavior, not as resistant or inconsistency, but as adaptive survival. This is why it is important to understand that children, no matter the age, whether they be 8, 7, 10, 15, 18, still do not have a fully functioning adult perspective and will have adaptive survival mechanisms to help them understand and stay safe in whatever the environment. That is why sometimes those that are victims look like they participated and were complicit, is because they are literally having a trauma adaptation to keep themselves safe. This is biology, not consent. So when we look at cases like the Epsteins, what becomes visible is not just individual harm, but systemic breakdown. Legal, medical, educational, social systems often operate in ways that unintentionally allow abuse to continue or even to happen in the first place. This happens not because people are malicious or evil, but because many systems are not trained to recognize human trauma, coercion, or power imbalances. This includes legal standards that require nearly impossible levels of proof, medical systems that may treat symptoms without always seeing underlying causes, families and communities that may not fully understand the dynamics of grooming and coercion, institutions that lack trauma-informed training. These failures are not about blaming individuals. They reflect widespread lack of trauma education and systemic awareness. Now, I am not talking about those that participated and that were present at the Epstein estate. Those individuals were possibly reacting from their own trauma, but they were choosing to engage in coercion. They were choosing to engage in what is traumatic to those youth. They were not keeping those youth safe. How can we change systems so that we can start holding individuals like those involved in the Epstein case accountable? Because even those who were present are complicit. A trauma-informed justice system would recognize that abuse is not an isolated act. It is a relational and systemic injury. This would include understanding delayed disclosures as normal, recognizing how fear and coercion shape behavior, acknowledging that harm can occur through exposure, power, and silence, creating legal and medical processes that feel safe rather than re-traumatizing, that ask questions about safety when individuals who are children are saying they are sexually active. Instead of asking, why didn't you speak up? We should be asking, what made it unsafe to speak? Instead of focusing on punishment, we should prioritize protection, healing, and prevention. The Epstein case is not just about one man or one network. It reflects broader cultural blind spots around power, consent, trauma, and protection. If we want real change in the world, we need trauma-informed education, trauma-informed healthcare, trauma-informed legal system, trauma-informed parenting and community support. This is about collective responsibility, not blame. It's about building systems that protect children, support survivors, and interrupt cycles of harm so that we can hold abusers accountable for the harm that they cause. If there is one thing I hope we can take from this moment, it is this. Justice is not only about prosecution. It is about creating conditions where abuse becomes far less likely to happen and where healing becomes far more possible. When we align our laws, our institutions, and our cultural understanding with what neuroscience teaches us about trauma, we move closer to a world where survivors are believed, protected, and supported, not doubted, blamed, or silenced. Thank you for being a part of this extremely difficult and triggering conversation. They matter more than we realize, and being able to approach them from a regulated body and not react in the same behavior that those that are causing the harm cause, such as shame, coercion, dominance. We can then move towards changing the system. And that takes all of us to begin to understand trauma. I'm sending you all deep love and appreciation. And if this resonates, I hope you'll consider liking, subscribing, following, sharing, commenting your perspective in a way that honors respect. And if you want to go deeper, I invite you to read my book, The Divine Within, Healing Ourselves to Heal the World, which bridges spirituality, psychology, and neuroscience and offers a step-by-step guide of how to develop self-awareness and how to begin the process of healing and integration. Or you can go to my website, blossomingheartwellness.com, and sign up for my newsletter so that you can learn about online courses and how to work with me. I'm sending you deep love, especially those of you who are survivors. And for those of you who are justifying or accepting this harm without questioning it, or those of you who participated in this, I invite you to get curious about your own inner system. What inside you is hurting enough that you think it is okay to hurt others?